welcome back to another video, and actually part 2 of our DAL Dodo Airlines for the layman series, where today's episode we're going to be making this skirt. I do apologize for the glare on my glasses and if there's any echo and stuff. This is not my usual setup, but today we have to make do because we had a bit of an abnormal week and things got delayed, so I'm trying to make do, you know? Right, so the plan is to make a box pleated skirt, and I was thinking about maybe purchasing a pattern or kind of looking into what I wanted and, you know, pattern wise and things like that. And I kind of realized that a box pleated skirt is really just a rectangular panel that then gets pleated down to the waist measurement. But because I'd never done this before and I wasn't sure of how much fabric I would need, that was my kind of biggest concern. Was I had a very specific fabric in mind in my wish list that I wanted to use for this project. However, I didn't know how much I would need for the skirt to make the, you know, perfect box pleated skirt. I know that for some people mock-ups are just like obviously something you do for everything. I'm not really that person. I only do a mock-up if I think that there are things that I need to, like information that I need to glean from said mock-up in order to like then go on to the final thing. I'm not like, I don't mock up everything. Anyway, doesn't matter. So I wanted to figure out how much fabric I needed most of all. So I went ahead and picked out some fabric that you're going to see in a minute, and yeah, decided to kind of look online for information of how to make a box pleated skirt. I found a TikTok actually, but I have since lost it into the like ether of the internet. So I don't know who the person is and I can't credit them because of that, because I genuinely cannot remember their name. Why? I have to close the window, I'm sorry. I feel like you can still hear that, but it's a little bit less loud. I found some fabric in my stash that I had plenty of, so I could play around and kind of figure out what I wanted to do. And it's the fabric that I wasn't really bothered if I ruined, if I didn't, you know, I didn't have any plans for it. Now I will pass you on over to editing, or not editing, voiceover Olga, which is editing Olga really. And she's gonna explain it all to you.
So first things first, as always, I have to clear out / tidy my desk to start on a new project. So yeah, just putting everything away and clearing out space so I actually can lay out my fabric and cut it and all that good stuff. And also obviously pick out a good song or playlist to listen to and drink some water. And then I thought a good idea would be to actually take some measurements. And so I got my measuring tape and I measured my waist and kind of measured from my waist to where I wanted the skirt to kind of land on my legs, and obviously then had to get a piece of paper to write it down because I'm not going to remember it all. However, I will say that I did something I shouldn't have done here because this measuring tape is actually stretched out. So this isn't my real measurements, but yeah, then I picked out where I wanted the, you know, sort of the skirt to land and wrote that down. Very scientific, I know, I'm very good at my job. And then I got some fabric from my stash to work on. Reasons I chose this was I didn't have a plan for it. I thought maybe it'd be cute. Like I thought it was like a kitschy kind of fabric, and the main reason really is that I had a lot of it, so I could make mistakes, I could you know, figure things out as I went along, and I felt like I had freedom to kind of explore the mock-up without being worried that I only had X amount of fabric, you know. So yeah, I decided to cut out the panel, and I thought about maybe cutting it in half, but then I thought, no, I'm gonna go with this. Obviously, this involved a lot of like math maybe not that much math for somebody who's good at it, but I'm not that good at it, so it involved a lot of math for me, and kind of figuring things out. And yeah, there we go. I cut my first panel to test out my box pleats, and then we'll go from there. Okay, I'm going to try to explain this as best as I can. The reason this involved a bit of math was I thought maybe I could work out a formula, but I never did. So if you can, drop it in the comments. Here's the thing. I wanted 2-inch box pleats. 2 inches is 5 centimeters and 1 inch is 2.5 centimeters. Okay, so in order to get 2-inch box pleats, you need to mark every 1 inch. So in order to have 5 centimeter box pleats, you need to mark out every 2.5. So I'm just using this patchworking ruler to mark out every 2.5 centimeters or 1 inch. And I draw a line all the way to like throughout the whole fabric pretty much. Or I didn't do that here, but I should have. So then to mark this, we're going to do an X on the first column, and then 2 columns are going to have an arrow going inward, and then another 2 are going to have an arrow going outward. And then we're going to mark 2 columns with X's. And then we're going to repeat that pattern with an arrow going sort of left to the right, and then an arrow going to the left where they sort of meet in the middle, and then 2 columns with X's. And then we're going to repeat that over and over across the whole panel. And that's kind of the secret to the box pleat, is this pattern right here. So 2 columns with an arrow going towards the right, 2 columns with an arrow going towards the left where they meet in the middle, and then 2 columns with an X. So then you just fold the fabric according to those lines, those markings that you drew for yourself. So we just fold and fold and fold and pin all the way across the length, or the length of our panels. And yeah, it's pretty simple actually, but once you've got the pattern down, it's going to be super easy to just fold and follow the pattern along and see the box pleats forming, as you can see here in this clip. So I have been working on pleating the panel that I cut. So the first panel that I cut was 60 centimeters long, so that's kind of the length of the skirt, and then it was 140 centimeters wide, which is the width of my fabric. So this is that panel, the 140 by 60. This is what that looks like after it's been pleated. So, and from my like rough calculations of just putting this in front of me, 1 panel is pretty much good enough for the front of the skirt. That means that for the back of the skirt, I need another panel that is the same size. And what I'm planning to do with that is to cut that in half, because I want a center back zipper. I don't mind a side zipper, but a side zipper means you don't get pockets, and obviously I'm adding pockets to this. I'm thinking I might just do a little like basting stitch here to keep these in place. But before we go anywhere near the machine, we need to draw our pattern pieces for the waistband. So I'm just cutting out some craft paper. You can use whatever paper you want for pattern drafting. Honestly, if all you have is printer paper, that's fine. You're just gonna have to tape some pieces together. So I'm getting out my measurements and a ruler, obviously, and I'm doing this in pencil, but I'm gonna switch over to a marker in a minute to show it to you. So I like to draw out some lines, like just straight lines, to start mapping this out, just so I don't have to be like concentrating on, because I don't know, I just feel like it's a very vast piece of white paper. So the first piece I'm going to draw is my waistband for the front. I'm going to be cutting that on the fold. So my total measurement is, I've written it down there. It's actually not this, but let's just work on under this assumption that this is correct. So my total measurement is 84 centimeters. That means that the front is going to be 42 and the back is going to be 42. However, so For a 42 centimeter waistband, I need 2 pieces of 21, or actually if I'm cutting it on the fold, I need it to be 21 centimeters. Then I added seam allowance, so it's a 1.5, but you can add however much seam allowance you want. So, and yeah, then you decide how tall you want the waistband to be. I decided on 7 centimeters because I was going to, I think I folded this. I don't remember, but I think I folded this. But depending on whether you want to fold it over or you want to, you want to wider, you want to slimmer, like whatever you want, you can draw that. And then always add seam allowance on top and bottom. Unless anything you're cutting on the fold, you don't need to add seam allowance to that, but anything else you need to add seam allowance to. As you can see here, I'm drawing the back waistband, and I'm making that 21 and then adding seam allowance on both sides. And the reason I split this in two is because obviously I'm going to have a center back seam, so I need 2 smaller pieces that then connect to the zipper and then connect to the side seams, and obviously add seam allowance all around. And I did say that I was going to fold this, but I actually did not. I was trying to remember what I did, but actually I cut 2 of the front waistband pieces on the fold and 4 of the back pieces, and also some interfacing. And I'm also gonna be drawing out my pocket. I have like the perfect pocket pattern that I got from a pair of pajamas from Berta Style, like 2019 something. I don't know which one it was, but I use it a lot. And the reason I really like it is because it has a straight kind of edge at the top, and it's a really nice big pocket, and the it's just a really nice pattern because I think I've mentioned this before, but it gets sewn into the waistband, and that means that there's less weight pulling down on your pocket, and that doesn't distort your skirts and dresses and things. So this is my favorite pocket pattern, and I sometimes just copy it out to have multiples of that. Now it's time to cut out my pieces from the fabric. I just fold, this is already folded in half obviously, so I just fold that over a little bit to just make it easier so I can cut my pieces in one go and I don't have to, do it twice. I find, I was gonna say I'm lazy. I don't know if I'm lazy, but I find ways to save time, I guess. So, so I just cut out my pieces for the waistband and also my pockets, and of course also the second panel for the back, and repeat the process that you did for the panel for the front. I also went ahead and cut out some interfacing and applied that with my iron. I think I used Vilene Vaseline F220. That's my kind of most used one, and I also pressed these pieces and actually put them against the pattern pieces again, and realized that they were not cut properly. So I went ahead and did that correctly the second time, I guess. Then I went ahead and basted that in place with my sewing machine before I even pressed it, which was a mistake, and definitely something that I figured out through the process of making this was that after pinning the box pleats down, the next step has to be pressing them. So I had already cut my panels, my back panel in two, so there's 2 smaller panels and then the bigger front panel, and I put a basting stitch in there and pressed that really nicely, and made sure that I liked my pleats. I think again, like I said, I have to press them straight away. I should have marked this down all the way to the bottom, and I should have pinned and pressed all the way to the bottom. I think that would have helped, but this fabric is a little bit more drapey or more flowy than my final fabric that I'm going to be using, so the result's not going to be the same, but still, I think that would have been better. And yeah, but then I'm kind of just looking at them and thinking about if I want to close the box pleats or not. I thought about it, but I then decided not to do that here. Then I pinned the waistband up into, or the skirt up into the waistband, whatever. And that was mostly, I wasn't going to stitch that down yet because obviously we still have pockets to do. But my idea for that was just to figure out where the panel kind of ended and where what the extra bit of the panel, I guess. And then I marked that down and chopped it right off. And then I repeated that for all of the panels. I feel like the order of steps in this video is mad, but I then stitched the waistband together for both the facing and the outer waistband. And then I trimmed that down and pressed the seams open. And then I pinned my pockets to my skirt panels with right sides together, stitched that all down, and then I rethreaded my serger so that I could finish my raw seams properly. And then I pressed the pocket in place, or the seam allowance towards the pocket. That's what I do normally, because then I'm going to understitch that and then press again with the pocket in its correct position, and then actually put the panels together. So to pin the pockets and the skirt together, I pin at the top so that the seams match. And then I also find the point where the seams at the bottom of the pocket meet of the two panels, and I pin that down, and then I pin all around the pocket and then all the way down the bottom of the skirt. But I actually don't stitch the kind of waistband bit of the pocket. I only stitch down from like the side of the pocket around the rounded edge and then down towards the hem, sort of like the length of the skirt, because that's going to get stitched into this waistband, the top, so it doesn't really matter. So I start at the top of the pocket and work my way around the rounded edge, and when I get to the seam point, like where I understitched and all that, then I put my sewing machine needle down where the stitch is, so where the seam is, and then I pivot around and carry on down the length of the skirt. And then we move on over to the serger to finish that seam with, or that raw edge of that seam. But this, for some reason, I started at the bottom of the skirt. You can do what you like. There's no rules in sewing, really. So yeah, do what works for you. And yeah, make sure you go around the pocket and all that. And then obviously I give that a really good press and move on over to the next step.
So we've got our little model here, and I know this is not the waist. This is supposedly the waist, but this is a very wonky and old dress form from like the 50s that I can't get the waist to be much bigger than this. We're working with it, okay? Anyways, I really like how it looks. Like, that's the first thing. Obviously this is a printed fabric, and the fabric that I'm planning on using for my final fabric is going to be plain, so obviously there's going to be some difference there. At the back here, you can probably tell there's way too much fabric. This seems like more than when I tried it on or like put it around me. But this isn't really something that I'm super worried about because we're going to put a zipper here, so it's fine. So I think I'm going to let this skirt hang out overnight and go have some dinner and have a little rest. It probably isn't going to drop a whole bunch because this isn't cut on a bias or anything like that. So whenever I work on this next, we'll have a look at how much the hem has dropped, if it has dropped at all. I'm going to attach the waistband and then kind of try it on. It's now the next day, 4:05. I'm going to attach the waistband to the skirt and then try it on and see if I like how it fits and all that stuff. Boy, the energy levels from those two clips were so again, pick out some good music for this next sewing session and get the skirt out.
And I just started pinning the waistband to the skirt, and I like to start at the seam, so at the side seam, so that those side seams, how many times can I say side seam in one sentence, are meeting really nicely, and then I'll pin around towards the, the rest of the length or the width of the fabric, and check that everything is the size that it needs to be and all of that. So then I stitched the waistband to the skirt with my seam allowance. That was 1.5, and I had to refill my bobbin and kept on stitching to the end. Now I went ahead and tried it on, checked that it was okay. Then I serged the seam and pressed it, and folded the seam allowance on the facing of the waistband and pressed that in, and that just makes it easier to stitch down later. And then I serged the opening edges of the skirt, so like the back center seams separately, picked out a zipper, and I pinned that in place and went ahead and stitched that down with my zipper foot. And then I cut off the excess of the zipper, a little bit less than I cut off less than I wanted to cut off, so I left a little bit extra, and I pinned the back center back seam closed and stitched that down up into the zipper as well. And then I pressed that seam open and also pressed the bit of the zipper that I'd stitched so that it looked nice and crisp, and checked that the seam was even. It wasn't, but at this point I was kind of feeling like I didn't really like the skirt, so I didn't bother to make that nice and perfect like I would with another skirt. Next, it was time to put the facing of the waistband on, so I pinned that down with right sides together, matching all of my seams and stuff, and I folded the edge where it met the zipper and stitched that down and serged the seams, like the seam allowance. And then I pressed the extra seam allowance up into the facing, and that and I understitched that. I'm not sure why I understitched. I think I didn't want any like kind of visible top stitching, so just understitching that real quick, pressing the facing down into its correct location, and now I'm gonna stitch that down by hand on the inside. I'm slip stitching around the zipper, so not around, but like the facing onto the zipper, and then I'm also going to slip stitch the folded edge that we pressed before. I'm going to stitch that down on the inside so that it's invisible on the outside. So I haven't quite finished the skirt. I've just finished sewing the waistband and like doing the lining and stuff, which that's at the point I was about halfway through when I was like, you know what, I should have tried this on after I put the zipper in, because now that I've like properly put it on and I can kind of see where it closes, it's a bit too big on me, maybe that much. So this is how much I need to remove. I don't feel like re-sewing the zipper in, like I don't feel like doing that whole thing again. This is a mock-up. Actually seeing it as like a proper skirt, I'm not sure I am super big fan of this print as like an outfit. I guess I'll have to see it with clothes on and like done up. We'll see. So I'm not even putting that much effort into it because I don't know if I like it at this point. That's 5 centimeters, so that's 10 total. Instead of doing it on the back and having to like redo the zipper and that whole thing, I think I'm gonna do like half on each side and then just like sew that down and
go about my day, like this little lazy way out. And then I can like actually wear this skirt a little bit and see if I like it. It kind of feels like I'm wearing a sofa. I really like how it looks though. The fit is really good. I like it. Well, apart from the bit where it doesn't fit, but I mean like the way that, the design, I guess.
So I measured how much I needed to take the skirt in, and I kind of split the difference and took that in at the side seams. And yeah, I just kind of folded that over and stitched it down by hand. It's really the lazy way out, but like I said, not really a big fan of this skirt. And after this, I hemmed it really quickly and the skirt was finished. Okay, so there we have it. You've seen the reveal. I got all of the information that I wanted out of that. So I'm really happy that I did mock this up and that I figured out what I wanted to do. I really like the size of the black box pleats. I figured out that I probably want to iron them all the way down to, you know, the edge, the bottom edge of the skirt. Yeah, I did glean a lot of information from that, and I think that's exactly what a mock-up is for. It just feels wasteful to me to make a mock-up and then that's just something that sits in a drawer or in a cupboard and that you never look at again. So I normally, when I do mock something up, I do try to make it something that I would wear, that I would get some use out of. Honestly, I put it on my dress form with the idea that maybe like by looking at it a little while, I would get excited to wear it. Because that's normally what happens is I finish a make and I put it on the dress form. But this time I was just like, I don't really like it. And honestly, I folded up the skirt and put it in a cupboard. And I have not looked at it since. I've put it on my calendar a bunch of times to actually photograph that make and to post it, because I do think it's important to post things even if they're not perfect and if we're not happy with them, because it shows a more realistic facet, I guess, of the sewing journey. And I think that doesn't happen to me so often anymore because I have quite a lot of experience and I sew for a living. So I feel like this doesn't happen to me so often anymore, but it does happen. And I think that this is proof that it does happen to me. Every time I think, okay, today I'm gonna get ready, do my makeup, do the whole photo shoot thing, and I just don't want to wear it. Like, I don't want to pull it out of the cupboard and put it on. I am really excited to show you the final skirt because I really think that it came out really, really cute. I love it. It's very comfortable. It fits me very well, and the color match is... That's it for today. I hope you enjoyed this rambly video of the mock-up for the DAL cosplay. I'm really excited about the series and I hope that you're enjoying it as well. There's 2 more episodes left, so there's the final skirt next week, and then the week after that I'm going to be showing you the accessories that go with it and obviously the final review. If you want to see that, make sure that you're subscribed to be able to be notified and all of that good stuff. Otherwise, generally, if you have not subscribed already, that would mean the world to me. It'd be very exciting. Yeah, you can also follow me on social media. I'm on
Instagram mostly, and then I'm trying TikTok, but I've said this before in videos, I am a millennial, so I don't really get TikTok, but I am really trying to get it. All of that is linked below. And I think that's everything that I have to say for this section of the show. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!